Hello, everyone. I'm Dave March, the Spy Guy, and I'm coming to you live from my, well, won't be live because I don't like to do live stuff. Anyways, I watched the Wonder Woman 84 movie, and I've watched some of the people talk about the Wonder Woman 84 movie, and I had some thoughts I wanted to share. So I'm not really going to do a big review of the movie, more explore what could have been better done and some of my problems with this. So this is going to be heavy spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled by this movie, my score is 60. 6 out of 60 out of 100. It had so much potential and squandered so much. And now I'm going to get more into what could have been done to fix this movie or make it a better movie than what it was. I was watching Andy Signor's Nerd Wars stream on it, and Cameron Ash, who I feel should sit down with me or just sit down with someone and write a better like Wonder Woman movie than what we got, because like he said, the movie is full of payoffs but no setup, which is usually the other way. You get set-offs with no payoffs. So here's a kind of my thoughts on it. So, like, why is so like people kept complaining that Diana's kind of like screwing around as Wonder Woman a little bit, but she doesn't do anything. Like how she could get through World War II without trying to do anything about it is a little like unclear. There is It's in the 1980s, and she's fighting crime, and it's kind of okay, but she's lost a lot of her weapons. She's just using the lasso of truth, but we don't really use the lasso of truth to do anything. And various people kind of come into her life, and like, okay, so here's a big problem with this movie. Maxwell Lord, how the hell does he know that magic exists? And how does he know the Dreamstone's going to do what he thinks it's going to do? Like, that's just crazy. I thought the Shazam movie did such a wonderful job of setting that up, because you have this kid who has this wonderful moment and sees magic for real, and it gets crushed by the fact that he fails to live up to the standards and becomes obsessed with it, and spends the rest of his life setting himself up to be exploring this situation in a desperate attempt to get himself magic powers. Maxwell Lord we have no idea why he thinks that the Dreamstone exists, why he's trying to find it, why does he think magic and all this other kind of stuff could possibly be, and why he's going through all this stuff. There's no payoffs. We go to his base and we look through some papers, but there's never ever any kind of clear understanding of why he thinks this is going to work for him, and why anything of that it's just like they have all throughout the movie. They could just pay that off by showing us, especially during the flashbacks, here's why he thinks magic exists. This is why he did all this. No, he just like knows the Dreamstone's going to work. And I'm like, not really cool, especially since we go and find the last Incan who has this book, and it gives us some exposition dump, and they mentioned Dolos. So apparently, I just did the research because I don't know much about the Woman world beyond like the 70s TV show. But Dolos is apparently a character from the original series run, and he is a god of mischief based on an actual minor god of mischief from Greek mythology. And so this dreaming child is like the Dreamstone could be an artifact created by him to cause chaos in the world, and that seems to be what it does. So in this particular movie, it's leading up to the destruction of the world. Personally, I would not have used Dolos at all. In fact, if I would have gone back to the original movie and did a post-credit scene where you see a woman kind of like laughing over the remains of Ares' body and saying like, oh, my plan has come to fruition, or something to that effect. And this person would have been Eris, the original Greek goddess of mischief and lies, and the Loki of the Greek mythology cycle. And then fast forward to the future, everything that's happening in Wonder Woman 84, why Maxwell Lord and Cheetah and all these other groups of people are coming together, it's because they're all being manipulated by Eris in the background. And Eris, if those who know about her, the Greek goddess of discord, would just love it to happen for shits and giggles. And that's what I would have thought would have been a great thing. So there had been like Maxwell Lord and Cheetah are actually being manipulated by this, and maybe that would have been the entire trilogy, is Eris's manipulation of things in the background. That would have made Ares a lot more interesting as a payoff in the third movie, because in the first movie, because I always thought Ares like showing up was the most disappointing part of that movie, in the sense that like Ares really is like, he was Chekhov's gun, and they led everything up to it, and then he shows up, and you're like, I thought it would have been interesting that Diana went off to kill Ludendorff and thought, hey, I'm going to get Ares, and then found out Ares was not there, and that everything was just happening. And then at the end, in that situation, at the end, I would have had a post-credit scene revealing Ares as a master manipulator who's still running all the wars, but having him killed off in the third act, and then revealing Eris is Ares versus Eris. Yeah. So Eris as the person who manipulated Ares' destruction and is now continuing to manipulate things throughout the movies. So in Wonder Woman 84, we would have had Eris coming in secretly in the background, slightly always laughing and playing various roles, but never being truly revealed to the end of the movie, where that she was the one manipulating everything. And then the third movie of the trilogy could mean the final confrontation with Diana versus Eris, and whatever happening in the lead up to the Snyder Cut and all those other movies, all the expanded universe. That would have been an interesting kind of thing. Another solution would be, I went and did some research on some of these characters because I didn't really know Cheetah very well. So I went over here to look up who Cheetah is. So Barbara Ann Minerva is apparently the third Cheetah, and she's a British archaeologist born as the heiress to a vast, I'm just going off of the Wikipedia page, vast fortune in her ancient family seat in Nottinghamshire. Ambitious, selfish, and severely neurotic, Barbara develops a passion for archaeology and eventually led her to finance an expedition to find a tribe in Africa, which is said to be protected by a female guardian with the powers of Cheetah. There's like some unfortunate events that lead it to, but in the end, Barbara Ann Minerva inherits the powers of the Cheetah Guardian, but since the Cheetah is supposed to be a virgin and Minerva was not, she is cursed, and so that she's in great pain and discovered in her normal, when she looks as a human, but she gets incredible pleasure and tactile feel when she's in her cheetah form. So Magic, and apparently in her original idea, is that she's a collector of Greek artifacts, and she desperately wants the lasso of truth. So instead of doing all the stuff we have with Kristen Wiig becoming this kind of like normal, like shy person, and that she uses that shyness, she's actually already gone through this cheetah portion. We might even have seen that as the beginning of the movie. Like we have the setup with the Diana as a kid, and then we cut to Cheetah's gaining her powers in Africa for 15 minutes of the movie, and then they're coming, her learning about Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. So when Wonder Woman's is going to work at the Smithsonian Museum, Cheetah's coming to the Smithsonian Museum because she knows Wonder Woman's going to be there. Wonder Woman's there because she's there to steal she has learned that the armor of Etheria, which is a whole little side plot from Wonder Woman 84, is there. And she's there to get the armor from the authorities, and that's why she's infiltrating the place. Meanwhile, Cheetah is there to try and get the lasso of truth from Wonder Woman. And then we have this whole like fight. There is like motivations between the two, that Cheetah's secretly manipulating Wonder Woman to get the lasso, and Wonder Woman's distracted by this whole having to get the armor out of the Smithsonian. And then you can have like maybe she's gets to the armor, and then Cheetah in the second act steals the lasso of truth, so that the two of them have to go off to her like base in Nottinghamshire in England, and have this whole like cat and mouse situation where they have a third final act between two powerful women who don't, which could be a much more interesting movie than what we got. Like, just drop the Maxwell Lord Dreamstone plot entirely and let the three just be Wonder Woman versus Cheetah, which I think a lot of people would rather have had than have all this complicated stuff with Maxwell Lord doing. You could set in the 80s. I would have probably set in the 70s just for that one Wonder Woman kind of feel. But the fact is, we could set this in all sorts of times and places. Yeah, but that's just, there's two better movies right there than I think what we got. Or we could have just taken some of that elements and put it in the Wonder Woman 84 script as is, where Cheetah is on her, just, we've seen the Kristen Wiig, like, this movie reminded me of Batman Returns and the rise of Catwoman. Like, why do we have to rip off Catwoman? Why don't we just make a much more interesting, developed, aggressive person based on the actual myth and storytelling of the DC universe, rather than having to rip off better movies to make our new movie? So that's that. Here's a way to fix the Steve Taylor issue. Imagine that Diane, we get a few setup scenes early on. I was originally thinking this guy would be a boyfriend, but maybe not. There's a guy in the building who's constantly trying to make his pitch at Diana. And we have two or three scenes where that guy is doing that. And she's just always blowing off her neighbor. And then suddenly, the guy who shows up at the party is that neighbor. And then he tells her that it's Steve. So she has now a connection to this neighbor who she starts banging and doing all the stuff with. But she also knows that this guy has, maybe we have a situation where he's taking care of a sick sister or a sick mother or some other thing. So there's a phone call that kind of like when Wonder Woman comes home, is like, oh, have you seen my son? He hasn't come to the hospital in the last 3 days. So that when she's getting her greedy moment of having Steve to herself, she kind of realizes that the guy and that Steve is taking the life of someone else. We get some sort of emotional connection from that guy whom in one thought, I thought maybe he was her boyfriend. Maybe that this guy is someone, and then she's got to decide whether or not she wants to go with the actual boyfriend or the ghost of the past. Another one solution is, this might actually be what's happening. Steve Taylor in the movie keeps giving us info dumps that he doesn't necessarily know. What if it's not Steve Taylor itself that's there, but it's the ghost or some sort of part of the crystal has appeared and is now using Steve Taylor as a way to give info dump to Diana about the rules of the Dreamstone. Finally, I read a little bit about the Dreamstone in DC Comics and how it's actually supposed to work. It's not supposed to grant you wishes. It allows you to plant dreams in the minds of your enemies or teams of your enemies. So you could have had this all being nothing more than like the original Dreamstone implanted in a bunch of superheroes, the idea that they were in fascist America. And maybe you could have done something with that. But there's just so many better movies that I felt we could have had, better storytelling, better setups, better payoffs because of those setups. And we could have had a definitely better movie. Like, why do people know things? Why do people not know things? Like the Invisible Jet. I told my friends who hadn't watched the movie about the Invisible Jet, and they're like, well, at least that's better than anything else that's out there. Since usually it's not any kind of a story. So anyways, that was some thoughts on Wonder Woman 84. And I feel like this is kind of a writer's blog sometimes when I'm not doing reviews. And I just wanted to get people out there a chance to hear some alternate theories of what should have, could have, would have been. And I just wish people had like sat down and said, we now live in a world where we have to connect all our movies. This kind of integrated, connected storylines that we know don't, these serial television style adventures. We need to have a solid throughput through the trilogy. So the trilogy itself is telling us a story, not just a series. So the first Wonder Woman does this, the second Wonder Woman does this, and the third woman completes this story. And we don't get that. We're getting each one as a standalone, and there might be a little, we can do callbacks to the previous one, but we're just not going to set up the advanced writing in advance and figure out what story we're trying to tell over the course of 3 episodes rather than just one. And I get it, but then don't tell me it's a trilogy. Just make standalone movies and whatever. Anyways, I had thoughts. I wanted to get them out there. Here you go. There you go. Thanks. If you like this, watch, like, share, subscribe. I have a locals channel. Don't do much as there as I wanted to do, but mainly in the last couple of weeks has been crazy. So if you like this, you want to see more, you know what you have to do. Bye.